Welcome back. It's time for our parenting segment, and we are joined once again by Bunmi Okesola. She is a social development practitioner who brings extensive expertise on child protection and sexuality education. She's a visionary. She has a visionary mindset and holds a deep passion for the well-being of children. She also serves as a strong advocate for their rights and protection against abuse. Speaking of abuse, how exactly do you help a child who has sadly been sexually abused? That's the question today. Hopefully we'll find some answers that can help. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Titi. Looking good as usual.
Thank you, thank you. So this topic is a sore spot for a lot of people. It's one of those God forbid kind of topics. And I saw on social media a particular post of a lady who actually said that she wanted to get her husband's nephew arrested because he had apparently abused their child. And the father of the child was just saying, you know, she should let it go, she should move on. Family were telling her, move on. And in a weird way, on social media, the comments were also saying, you know what, just take the child for counseling and also move on and leave the person, you know. And it just gives you an idea of the mindset around this issue of abuse. But let's see if we can get a step-by-step process or procedure of what should happen if you find out that a child has been sexually abused.
Okay, so thank you so much, Titi. Like you said, this is one conversation that people just want to gloss over, and you hear people saying that it has happened, it has happened, just forget about it. Let's move on, get help for the child. Sadly, most of the time, the child doesn't even get help. So I would say in a situation like this, first of all, as a parent, you want to be calm about it.
Okay.
Because at this point, it's not the point where you just run into action because your child needs you. That's the first. So at this point, the child is your focus. Your child is your focus. You want to reassure your child. You want to be calm. So I say, don't fret, don't freak out. That's the first thing. I would say there is help for your child.
Okay.
Then I also want to say that at this point, whether it's suspected, whether you suspected it, or whether your child reported to you, you want to listen to get the facts. You want to listen, you want to make your child comfortable enough to give you the information that you need to take action. And if it's something that just happened, you want to keep all the evidences. Because a lot of times when people go to court, one of the issues is that there are no evidence to support your claim. So if it is something that just happened immediately, I would say keep all the evidence. We would usually say don't wash for the child if it's a situation, if maybe it's a rape case and there was any form of penetration, ensure that you keep all the evidences intact so that you have something to present. Assure your child. In fact, this one is really important because it's one of the reasons why children don't report abuse. Believe the child. I cannot overemphasize this. Believe your child. People say children exaggerate, people lie about things, but abuse, especially sexual abuse, is one of the things that children rarely lie about. So believe your child and reassure your child of the love and support. I am here to help you. I believe you. I validate your feeling. It's not okay for this to have happened to you. It's not your fault. And I'm here to walk you through the process. So I believe that that's really very important. Now, reports. Report the case. A lot of times in society just wants to gloss this situation, whether it happens at home or it happens, especially when it happens within the family. Please, it's important that this case is reported. I cannot overemphasize that because sometimes we just want to sweep it under the carpet. We just want to say, God forbid. We just want to say, walk within the family.
Why is it so important?
Because rape, whether it's rape or sexual abuse, is an offense.
Okay.
It's an offense that is a criminal offense that has to be reported. So at that point, it has gone beyond you as a parent. It has gone beyond the family. It's now a case to be handled by the police or by organizations who are meant to handle such cases. So it's not something we deal with within the family. It's not something we deal with within the community. It is reported to the right authorities so that the child can get justice. And, okay.
All right. We are Going to continue on this particular train of thought after a quick break. Welcome back. It is the parenting segment right here on Wake Up Nigeria, and we've been discussing what exactly to do should you find out that a child in your environment has been sexually abused. It's great to have you here on the show, as always. Where we stopped previously was essentially talking about the steps to take.
Yeah.
You mentioned the fact that you should, first of all, reassure the child, and then, of course, report. Now, from the health standpoint, I know that there is such a thing as a rape kit. Could you take us through the process of what happens when a child is taken to the hospital?
Okay, so it's important that when a child is abused, you think about the physical part of the child, the emotional, as well as the psychological well-being of the child. So the physical part is why you need to take the child to the hospital, because it's important that the child is checked, examined. So there is an examination that will be done on the child. So I would advise that you take the child to the nearest medical center. Now, there are centers that are established, like in places like Lagos, you have the Mirabel Center. But sometimes because of accessibility, people cannot get there easily. But of course, they have helplines that you can easily call, and you have all your tests done. They examine the child. They administer prophylaxis, the PEP, if it is necessary. If the abuse, the sexual abuse just happened and there is penetration, they will need to administer prophylaxis, the PEP to the child. And depending on the age of the child, they might also need to give emergency contraceptions if there is a situation. But like we know, children don't like hospital. That's where you need to reassure the child and prepare the child that, okay, we need to seek medical help for you. Mind you, all through the process, you are carrying the child along. You are talking to the child, you are reassuring the child. When you get to the hospital, the truth is not every hospital has a dedicated center where you can get such help. But usually you would find some sort of help in any hospital you go to, especially if probably you use a general hospital where they have specialized centers. And once it is stated that a child has gone through sexual abuse, they need to examine the child. So the examination process, yes, can be invasive, but it's important that the child is carried along. That's why you also have trainings being done for medical practitioners, such that they can prepare the child, and they do it in such a way that it's not causing additional trauma,
I was going to say that because some people consider that examination process also as a traumatic process. And invasive, because there are parts of the body that you've already trained your child should be private, and a doctor or nurse, matron, doing any kind of examination, it's weird. It's something a child has never experienced. Many adults have never experienced. But now we also have to reiterate the fact that it's not just girls we're talking about here. Boys also should be taken for examinations.
Both. Regardless of the age of the child, whether the child is 9 months, whether the child is 1 year, whether the child is 15, it's important that the child is taken for medical examination, especially when there is an established case of rape.
Do you have any form of statistics in terms of numbers to tell us how frequent these cases actually are in Nigeria?
The statistics says 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 10 boys will experience sexual abuse before the age of 18.
Wow.
So that's a lot, and that shows how rampant these cases are, and that's why we cannot just throw it under the table. That's why it's important that we are aware. So it's happening. It's a lot. Was it Mirabel Center reported that in 2002, they had over 2,000 cases of children that were sexually abused. So that tells us that the statistics is really high, and even what we feel like we're hearing, we're not hearing enough. But one thing I think I must reiterate here is to seek professional help for the child. Because I realized that a lot of times we report to the police, whether the case is handled properly or not, the child is neglected in that case. I know we don't like therapy in this part of the world, but there are organizations that are that are designed to provide professional counseling for children. Okay. And it's important that not just the child go through the counseling process, because sexual abuse is traumatic not just for the child alone, but also for the family. This is the point where you see parents feeling like, oh, I have failed. How did this happen to my child? But I want to reassure you as a parent that you have not failed. Sexual abuse can happen to anybody, even the most careful parenting situation. Okay. People have experienced, sexual abuse in those kind of situations. But it's important that you are strong enough to go through the process with your child and you provide the support that your child needs, because at this point, the child is really vulnerable. And if you don't provide that support, that is when you have children experiencing trauma, even when they are adults. So some of them carry these experiences from childhood to adulthood. And, It is a lot, and it's something that, of course, we can't encompass in one episode. But over the past few weeks, we've been, gradually building on these matters, especially regarding mental health of a child, and we've also been able to give people those nuggets they need, that insight they need to actually be more vigilant with their children. All right, then we have to wrap it up on the parenting segment. For now, please use hashtag WakeUpNigeria on TVC and let us know your thoughts. We're taking a break now. Stay with us.